Springlock suits. Quite fascinating if you ask me. You can have them set up on stage, or you can wind up the Springlocks and have them just be a normal mascot costume. You won't have to buy any extra costumes, so you'll save a lot of money. Now, if only there was a drawback. Oh wait. Welcome back to Theory Analysis, everyone. My name is Miner, and today we got another theory that we need to look at. But for those of you guys who are new and don't know what Theory Analysis is, welcome. Theory Analysis is where we take a look at different theories in different media, whether that be video games, movies, anime, whatever, and we come to the conclusion on whether or not we believe them. If you guys have any theories that you want us to analyze, go down to the video's description and check out our Discord server. We have a suggestions tab there, or you guys can follow me on Twitter. We'll put it right here, and tag me in a post using the hashtag Theory Analysis. Today's theory? It's a good one. We're going to take a look on whether or not you can survive a Springlock failure. This theory comes courtesy of Wazerbyte right here on YouTube. We'll toss their profile onto the screen. They said that you can survive a Springlock failure. It's just really unlikely, and it just depends entirely on the scenario. Go watch their video before watching this one. It'll be linked right down there if you want to go check it out, as well as up there in the iCard. Seriously, you're going to need the context of that video before watching this one. Today we are going to look at this theory and come to the conclusion on whether or not we believe it. We're going to take a look at the Springlock suits themselves and how they are designed, how many different variations there are, how they work, how they fail, how many better alternatives there are, and definitively, whether or not you can survive a Springlock failure. Look at the progress bar, guys. We have a lot of work to do. So first, the Springlock suits themselves. They were meant to be a cheaper alternative to having both a wearable mascot costume and a working animatronic. Now, I have some major issues with this, but we'll get to that later. These suits came with a special crank that was used to wind up the small mechanisms on the inside called springlocks. Now, keep in mind that's not how springlocks in real life work. And yes, there are real life springlocks. I don't have one in real life. I might purchase one day so I can show you guys, but I don't have one right now, so we're just gonna have to stick with this for now. You have to wind up all the springlocks on the inside, and this would compress the springs that are inside them, causing the animatronic parts to be pulled back and allowing it to be effectively wearable. But keep in mind, guys, that these suits are very temperamental, and you have to be specially trained to know how to wear them. And that brings us to our next point: how do these suits kill you? What exactly happens during a Springlock failure? The last thing you want whenever you're inside this suit is what is called a Springlock failure. This is where the Springlocks go from compressed to decompressed, and that shoots all the animatronic parts back into position with enough force to crush bone. And let me just say, if you're inside the suit when this happens, yikes. Let me give you a quick example. Let's just say you're inside the suit and the springlocks in the legs go off. Well, all the animatronic parts go back into position and say goodbye to that leg. Now, honestly, if you ask me, if you're going to be in a Springlock failure, you should probably just hope it's like the foot or the arm or something, and not the chest or the head. They can be set off in a multitude of ways, from breathing on them to moisture and apparently heartbeats too.
I'd recommend that you keep the springlocks wound up. Your breathing and your heartbeat are causing them to come loose.
And if you don't seek medical attention quickly, it'll be a slow and painful death. Dave explains how the springlocks work in both the Silver Eyes as well as the graphic novel. Page 119, and I quote, "First, the locks themselves will snap right into you, making deep cuts all over your body. Then a split second later, all the animatronic parts, all that sharp steel and hard plastic, will instantly be driven into your body. You will die, but it will be slow. You will feel your organs punctured, and the suit will grow wet with your blood, and you will know you're dying for a long, long time. You'll try to scream, but you'll be unable to. Your vocal cords will be severed, and your lungs will fill with your own blood until you drown in it." So the biggest takeaway from that is you don't die from blood loss or trauma. You die from two probably even worse things: getting your bones crushed and drowning in your own blood. They also do say in these books that it is very difficult to set them off accidentally, like if you're just walking around or something, unless the suit hasn't been given proper maintenance, or if you touch the spring locks directly. I mean, just look at this page right here. He's literally touching the spring locks right there, causing them to go loose. Now, from what we know about these suits, you might think that it's pretty much impossible to survive one of these. But, there was one. Someone did survive. And no, Springtrap does not count. He technically did die. I mean, this is what he looks like underneath the suit. Tell me that that's not a corpse. I'm talking about Dave Miller, aka William Afton. Now, from what we see in the books, which we will throw an image onto the screen, there are a lot of cuts on his body and also some on his neck too, but none on his face. Pair this with the fastener on the back, has let a lot of people think that this is just a different suit design from the ones in the games. Also, not to mention the fact that there's a whole debate going around on whether or not the books are even canon. Nothing is easy these days, is it? Also, his could have happened in public where he would have gotten immediate aid from other people. Now let's focus on the other suits and their Springlock failures. The two main suit designs are known as Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. They have the Springlock mechanism we talked about earlier where you pull back animatronic parts. Now, they did have another version of this. I don't know if this is actually canon, but apparently there's another version where you pull the freaking animatronic out of the suit and it's just a mascot suit with a bunch of spring locks on it. That might have just been a fan video, I'm not so sure. We'll discuss that later. Those are the main suits, but the very first Springlock failure we see is in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. But first, guys, let's rewind. Let's go all the way back to whenever he destroyed the animatronics in the same game. Nobody knows why he did this. Some people theorize that he was trying to collect the remnant from the animatronics. Either way, what happened was that he accidentally let the ghosts out of the suits and he was freaking horrified. So what he did was he jumped into the same suit that he used to kill them. Nobody really knows why he did it. Maybe it was just to show dominance. You know, just all like, yeah, I did it. What are you gonna do about it? Not to mention the fact that the roof is leaking and the suit looks very old and decrepit. And pair this with the fact that he is literally laughing, causing him to breathe on the spring locks. Yeah, you deserve that. What's happening here is the spring locks are crushing him and fusing him to the inside of the suit. This then resulted in Springtrap, the main antagonist of Five Nights at Freddy's 3. A lot of people tend to forget, but in Five Nights at Freddy's sister location, there was actually one Springlock suit. It was on night 4. Circus Davy locked us inside this suit, and we witnessed Ballora getting scooped. Now we have to defend ourselves from her mini arenas, while also keeping the Springlocks wound up. Now, the normal Springlocks don't operate like this, so this makes me think that this is a completely different mechanism. Rather than the Springlocks quickly decompressing and crushing you to death, this time, they're actually slowly decompressing, which is arguably worse. Next is Secrets of the Mimic and Into the Pit. Both games have what your stereotypical Springlock suit looks like, but I'm not so sure if there is like any Springlock failures, so we'll just move on. The next one is in the books. I mentioned that they all have to keep like the proper maintenance for these suits so that way they don't fail. Honestly, this suit looks really good. Like he's able to walk, move around, grab people, and even dance, I guess. But he's also very careful and delicate about it to make sure that the spring locks don't go off. But then Charlie grabs a hold of him and she reaches up and sets the spring locks off. This causes all the spring locks to go off and the animatronics to pull him into the back room. And this was extremely gory. Like there was blood everywhere and he was like screaming a lot. The next one is in the movie. Now this one is pretty different. First off, the look of the suit, it does not look like it was being taken care of at all. So you'd think that it probably would be pretty easy to set this one off. But unfortunately, we'd be wrong. Because this dude is able to kick, fight, get shot at, and so much more, and yet the spring locks don't go off. Hell, he even throws the freaking head onto the ground, and the spring locks don't go off. Now, I bring this one up because when Carlton was wearing the suit, Charlie had to take it off of him, and whenever it landed on the floor, it caused all the spring locks to go off. I don't even want to imagine what it would look like if Carlton was in that suit. But here, he throws the head onto the floor and it doesn't go off. Why is that? But I also think, similar to the books, this might be a different mechanism. Because when the cupcake bites off a chunk of the animatronic suit, the spring locks go off and hit him right in the lung. Ow. Just the thought of that is terrifying. So there's no screaming, unlike the books. And I also want to bring up the lack of blood. I get it, the movie was PG-13, but I mean, the books and even the games depict there being blood everywhere. My biggest issue with this is what happens next. So far, everything aside from the blood loss has been pretty realistic so far. But, you know what? Just watch the clip for yourself.
I always come back.
Listen, great callback to Pizzeria Sim. Okay, I love it. I love it whenever Matthew Lillard said it. I thought it was really good, but my main issue with this is that if your lungs are filling up with your blood, you're not going to be able to talk. Now, however, if there's one compliment I can give this Springlock Failure, it's how long it took. Quote again, "You will die, but it will be slow. You will know you're dying for a long, long time." They distinctly say that it is a slow and painful death. But yet, the books and the games depict it as happening so fast. Not the movie. It takes a whole minute for what we can assume is all the spring locks to go off. The last thing we're going to cover is a common misconception a lot of people have. A lot of people think that the bite of 83 is a spring lock failure.
Was that the bite of 87?
That, my friends, is not the case. The suit was in animatronic mode. You would have seen a person's head inside that suit if it was a spring lock failure. So as much as it would make that make sense, unfortunately, there's no spring locks at play. Now let's focus on some better alternatives to the spring lock suits. First thing, he seems to be using compression springs here. It would actually be better if he was using tension springs. For those of you who don't know, compression springs are meant to be compressed, where tension springs are meant to be stretched out. This way, in case if the spring locks did fail, it would be whenever it's performing and not whenever you're wearing it. Now, I know that wouldn't be ideal because the suit would just fall right off, but it's better than being crushed to death. This next one actually involves whether or not the skeleton is removable. Rather than putting the spring locks on the suit, you should put them on the endoskeleton. Pair this with using tension springs instead of compression springs. Honestly, I feel like that's actually safer. The next one involves using latches instead of spring locks. This way you can just remove the latches and just pull the endoskeleton out. And the last thing, and probably the easiest solution, is to just have them be separate. All these alternatives were actually provided by the Chip Tide. Honestly, go check his channel out, link in the video's description. Like seriously, your average spring lock costs about 10 to 30 bucks, which by itself is not that big of an issue, but once you buy all of the spring locks needed and all the mechanisms to attach them and this fur costume, it would just be easier to just buy a separate suit. Come on, Fazbear Entertainment, think. But now on to the question. Can you survive a spring lock failure? Does it truly depend on the scenario? Well, short answer, yes. There are many, many variables that are at play here, like, are you in public? What's the suit's condition? Do you remember your training? Is the ceiling leaking? What's your body type? And many, many, many more. Like, let's go through a couple scenarios. Let's go with a bad scenario. Let's make it as close to Five Nights at Freddy's 3 scenario as possible. You're a skinny guy all alone in an abandoned building. The suit is old and hasn't had proper maintenance. You're freaking out, so you can't really think, so you don't see the leaking ceiling. The suit is wet and you're also breathing on it. And then... yeah, you did. There's no one around to help you. And the suit is probably very sensitive to touch. So even the slightest movement could make it much worse. Now, let's think of a better scenario. You're on stage and surrounded by a large group of people. The suit is not old and has had proper maintenance. You're not freaking out, and the ceiling is not leaking, and you do remember all your training. So if a spring lock went off, it probably wouldn't be that big of an issue. There would be medics close by, so you would get immediate aid. While I can't promise that you survive, you do have a higher likelihood. So do I believe this theory right here? You could potentially survive a springlock failure? Yes, I do believe it. But honestly, guys, let's just thank God these suits are not real in real life. Right? Right? Right?
I always come back.
Ah, God. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, why don't you guys consider hitting that subscribe button. Remember, it's completely free and you can always change your mind later. You can also hit the like button and ring the bell icon to receive notifications so you never miss another upload. Shout out to all the Patreon members. If you guys want to see your name on this list, go ahead and join the Patreon, linked in the video's description. Shout out to Wazerbyte for making the theory that we analyzed today. Honestly, it was really good. The video will be linked in the video's description. There should be a few more videos popping up on your screen if you guys want to watch some more. And with that, this is Miner signing off for now. I love every single one of you guys. You guys are awesome, and we will see you guys next time. Peace out, everyone.